Chapter 1451. Rong Xiu chuckled. His thin, scarlet lips curled into a faint smile, but his deep, phoenix-like eyes were still cold. "Greetings, Patriarch." He nodded slightly. Although he was saluting, his imposing manner did not diminish at all. Instead, it made him look even more elegant and noble. In front of Bailey June, he did not give in at all. Bailey June's heart sank. After not seeing him for a few years, Rong Xiu seemed to be even more difficult to provoke than before. He still remembered how young Rong Xiu was when he chose to go into seclusion. In the blink of an eye, that young man had been reborn and grown into a giant. He had underestimated Rong Xiu. "I wonder when Patriarch came out of seclusion. I didn't receive any news." Rong Xiu chuckled. "If I knew, I would have come out to welcome you personally." Bailey June suppressed the waves in his heart. "It happened 2 days ago. I wanted to send you a message, but then I heard about what happened here, so I decided to come in person. I thought that I would have to meet you anyway, so I didn't bother them." "I see. Patriarch, you seem to have made a breakthrough this time. I really have to congratulate you." This sentence finally made Bailey June's expression relax a little. He snorted and the corners of his mouth twitched. "It's not as fast as the Saint's rapid progress in the past few years." This was not a polite remark. After he came out of seclusion, he specifically asked Yu Jing and the others some questions. Among them was Rong Xiu's current strength. But in fact, Yu Jing and the others did not know much about this. Because in the past few years, Rong Xiu did not spend much time in Yuntian Tower. And every time he came back, he came and went in a hurry. How did they know? It was nothing more than a rough guess. Even so, it was not difficult to guess Rong Xiu's basic strength. Bailey June was shocked. Although he was a little unhappy, he could only accept it. Rong Xiu was a once-in-a-thousand-years genius of the Yuntian Tower, so it was normal for him to have such a cultivation speed. It was impossible for others to be envious, including him. Rong Xiu's gaze swept over the young man beside him, but it was as cold as a knife. Jiang Jiwan's heart tightened. Without raising her head, she could feel Rong Xiu's gaze on her, as if he could see right through her. She lowered her head even more guiltily. Her face was disguised, and so was her figure. Even her aura was concealed by Bailey June. Logically speaking, there shouldn't be any flaws. "Who is this? Why haven't I seen you before?" Rong Xiu asked slowly. Bailey June furrowed his brows. "Lil Lu, recently promoted from the bottom. I saw that he had a good aptitude, so I took him with me. There are so many people in the Yuntian Tower, the Holy Sun might not know every one of them, right?" Rong Xiu suddenly laughed. "You're right. To be able to gain your favor, he must not be an ordinary person." Eyes are bad. I didn't notice such a person before." He remembered the entire Yuntian Tower, from top to bottom, as long as he had seen it before. Even if it was a lowly servant. And this person, Rong Xiu sneered and retracted his gaze. Without that oppressive gaze, Jiang Ziyuan breathed a sigh of relief in her heart. A wave of coldness hit her, and only then did she realize that her back was already drenched in cold sweat. She secretly gritted her teeth. Rong Xiu only looked at her twice. How could she be so useless? "I hope he doesn't notice anything." Jiang Jiwan wanted to take the opportunity to look at the face that she had been dreaming of. After all, they had not seen each other for a long time. However, she felt very guilty after hearing Rong Xiu's words, so she naturally didn't dare to move. She looked down and stood at the side, not daring to say a single word. Bailey June put on a fake smile. "The Holy Sun is busy. Naturally, he has no time to care about these things." There was an undercurrent between the two. Many people around them looked over with complicated expressions on their faces. Their thoughts were running wild. It seems like the two most powerful people in the Yuntian Tower don't have a good relationship? Apparently, when Rong Xiu was first found in the Yuntian Tower, this Bailey clan leader was very opposed to him being added to the clan's genealogy. He even suggested twice that Rong Xiu be given the harshest punishment. That kind of punishment was unbearable for cultivators with decent strength, let alone Rong Xiu, who was only a child at that time. If Rong Xiu did not take the initiative to summon the infinite divine dial and test his shocking talent, he would have died there. It was also because of this that Rong Xiu and Bailey Jun's relationship had never been good. Especially now that Rong Xiu had so much power in his hands, he could order the entire Yuntian with just one word. Bailey Jun no longer had any real power in his hands. He was only left with the empty title of clan leader. Could the two of them see eye to eye? Please rest first. I will go first. Rong Xiu seemed to have turned a deaf ear to Bailey Jun's sarcasm. After politely bowing, he turned around and left. From the beginning to the end, he had his own noble and arrogant aura, but no one could find fault with him. Seeing the tall and slender figure leave, Bailey Jun felt stifled in his heart. Back then, they had planned to directly dispose of Rong Xiu. But because he had shown great talent, after much debate, they chose to keep him. At that time, he actually did not take Rong Xiu seriously. Even if his mother was a direct descendant of the Yuntian Tower, his father was of humble birth. With such a background, he was destined to never be able to raise his head in the Yuntian Tower. But later, the development of the situation gradually got out of control. It was not until Rong Xiu killed his way out and ascended to the position of the son of saint that he realized that he had completely underestimated this young man. But at that time, everything was too late. Therefore, he could only accept the fact that Rong Xiu had become the son of saint. But he still misjudged Rong Xiu's ambition and ability. Until this time, when he came out of seclusion, he realized that he had never seen Rong Xiu clearly. Everything in the past was just Rong Xiu's little tricks. If he had known, he would have killed him back then. But what was the use of regretting it now? Bailey Jun gritted his teeth, his face grim. On the other side, Rong Xiu did not seem to be affected at all, and sat down directly beside Chu Luiyue. Hey, Rong Xiu, your seat is over here. Elder Bo Yen glanced to the side and pointed to the other side of him as a reminder. Rong Xiu leaned back and smiled faintly. It's the same no matter where I sit. Elder Bo Yan's mind turned quickly, and he did not insist. Rong Xiu really put in a lot of effort for Chu Yu's sake. Chu Luiyue also turned her head. The two of them looked at each other. She blinked slightly. Originally, she and Rong Xiu were supposed to sit on either side of Elder Bo Yan, but now he and Elder Bo Yan were sitting on both sides of her. Unknowingly, she was surrounded in the middle like stars surrounding the moon. Was he here to support her? Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1452. The surroundings fell silent for a moment. Chu Luiyue narrowed her eyes, retracted her gaze, and looked at the crowd. Sorry for the long wait. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Chu Yu will be honest and tell you everything I know. Her magnanimity stunned the crowd for a moment. She was quite direct. Many people exchanged glances in private. There were so many questions. Which one should they ask first? Who would ask? Chu Luiyue was still smiling, seemingly very patient. She did not intend to waste time with these people. The hesitation at this moment was only because they had their own plans. But in reality, their targeting and suspicion would not reduce because of this. Chu Yu, I have something to ask you. The first to step forward was actually Liang Xiaoxiao. Liang Ye was also shocked and hurriedly gave Liang Xiaoxiao a look. However, Liang Xiaoxiao was determined to speak at this time, and no one could stop her. Chu Luiyue nodded slightly. Senior Sister Liang, please ask. Liang Xiaoxiao stared at Chu Luiyue, as if she wanted to dissect her from the inside out. Let me ask you, how did my third brother die in the primeval north region? Xiaoxiao. Liang Ye could not help but call out to her. This question could be asked in private. Why did she have to ask in public? The people from Lingxiao College were all present. Wasn't she deliberately embarrassing them? Everyone knew that Lingxiao College had always been neutral about this kind of thing. They would never reveal a word in this regard. If the people from Lingxiao College misunderstood, Chu Luiyue shrugged and revealed a helpless expression. Sorry, Senior Sister Liang. You should know the rules of the college. Of course I know. Liang Xiaoxiao did not show any disappointment. Instead, she took half a step forward and continued to ask. I received news that my third brother had asked for help at that time. The elders originally wanted to help, but you stopped them. Is this true or false? As soon as he said this, everyone was stunned for a moment. Then they all looked at Chu Liyue. This was true. Chu Yu had an undeniable responsibility for Liang Shaokong's death. Even Liang Ye had a doubtful look on his face. Where did Xiao Xiao hear it from? Why didn't he know about it? But since she asked this question, then it might not be impossible. Jiang Jiwan, who was standing behind Bailey June, still had her head down, but she was very focused and heard every word clearly. She pursed her lips. Her hand in her sleeve pinched a corner of her shirt, unconsciously twisting it. I did, Liang Xiaoxiao still asked. It seemed like his father's secret message wasn't completely useless after all. She knew that Liang Xiaoxiao and Liang Shaokong's relationship was very good. Moreover, she was also an impulsive person. As long as she wanted to sow discord, she could do anything. Now, the cannon fire was finally aimed at Chu Yu. Chu Liyue smiled. His expression was calm and there wasn't the slightest ripple in his eyes. Senior Sister Liang, I'm just an ordinary student in the academy. What right do I have to command the elders? Aren't you overestimating me? Besides, I don't know your third brother. Why should I do this? Ordinary student? Liang Xiaoxiao sneered in disdain, as if she had heard a joke. You actually have the nerve to say that you're an ordinary student? After entering the northern region of the Eldritch Desolation, you were trapped. Didn't you rely on your plan to escape safely? At that time, even the elders seemed to rely on you and listen to your words, right? Many people were shocked. Although they knew that Chu Liyue had obtained the inheritance in the northern region of the Eldritch Desolation, they didn't know much about what Liang Xiaoxiao said. At this moment, when they suddenly heard it, they were very shocked. The elders all listened to that teenager? This sounded preposterous. But Liang Xiaoxiao's words were so convincing that it didn't seem like she was lying. As if sensing the suspicions of the surrounding people, Liang Xiaoxiao snorted coldly and said, Everyone, you might not know this, but at that time, Jiang Jiwan accidentally killed a nine-tailed blue crow, causing a large number of nine-tailed blue crows to chase after him. In a moment of desperation, they had no other choice and nowhere to escape. In the end, they followed Chu Yu all the way and successfully reached that canyon. Only then were they able to escape safely. As for my third brother, he might have been killed in that canyon. At that time, Chu Yu, of course your opinion was important. It could even influence the elders' decision. Do you dare to admit it? Liang Xiaoxiao was agitated. Her face was flushed red, and her eyes seemed to be burning with anger. Everyone around her was shocked by her words, and it took a long time for them to recover from their shock. Liang Xiaoxiao, you mean? Chu Yu was the one who brought people to the canyon? A middle-aged man suddenly asked. Everyone's hearts were in their mouths. If this was true, then didn't that mean Chu Yu knew the location of the canyon from the beginning? Then, the implications of this matter were too great. For a moment, countless pairs of doubtful eyes landed on Chu Liyue. Elder Hua Feng and the others looked tense. In fact, they had always been very curious about this point. At that time, Chu Yu's performance did seem like he was very familiar with the northern part of the primordial world. However, Chu Yu did not say much, so they did not ask further. Who knew that Liang Xiaoxiao would actually bring up this point and pointed at Chu Yu? How did she know so much about it? Someone must have told her. Chu Liyue was also thinking about this question. Facing Liang Xiaoxiao's angry questioning, Chu Liyue's reaction was much calmer. She tilted her head and frowned as if she was deep in thought. Liang Xiaoxiao sneered. What? Feeling guilty? Can't you make it up? Chu Liyue shook her head and smiled. No, I'm just thinking, weren't you guys chasing after Jiang Jiwan a while ago? Why are you so biased towards her now? What? Liang Xiaoxiao's expression froze, and she did not react for a moment. Chu Liyue blinked and explained patiently with a smile, only a few people know about the situation at that time. And there are even fewer people who are willing to tell you this. Senior Sister Liang, you probably don't know, but at that time, we were actually following Jiang Jiwan's words in the northern part of the primordial world. At that time, We had just arrived in the northern part of the primordial world, but we encountered several troubles in a row. After a while, we were almost at our wits' end. Fortunately, we met Jianghu later. She happened to escape from a predicament and had been running for a long time. She knew the safest way. Therefore, we chose to let her lead the way. As she spoke, Chu Luiwei looked at Shiru. Senior Sister Ru, oh, what do you think? Shiru curled her lips into a smile. That's right. Although I have never liked Jianghu, she was the most experienced at that time, so we all chose to listen to her and escape from the northern part of the primordial world. In the end, it was Jianghu who led us. I don't know why. The leader was changed to junior brother Chuyu? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1453. Shiru's smile was cold and her tone was sarcastic. I'm afraid that someone is desperately trying to push all the blame onto someone else. Although she did not mention a name, everyone could tell that she was talking about Jianghu. Liang Xiaoxiao was also stunned. She had only received this news by chance a few days ago, but she did not know who sent it. She had wanted to investigate, but the other party was very secretive. She could not find anything even after a few days of searching, so she had to put it aside for the time being. However, she believed this news very much. Because it was too detailed. She knew that it was most likely someone who had secretly leaked this news. However, she did not expect that it would be Jianghu. After all, not long ago, she and her father had chased after Jianghu, causing her to panic like a stray dog. In the end, she had no choice but to hide in the Yuntian Tower and did not dare to come out again. Jianghu must hate them to the core. Why would she take the initiative to say this? However, after hearing Shiru's words, Liang Xiaoxiao realized that she was wrong. Jianghu not only hated them, but also hated Chuyu and the school. If he could use this opportunity to viciously attack his enemies, then why not? In the end, Jianghu, only needed to reap the benefits. After coming back to her senses, Liang Xiaoxiao's face turned green and white. She could not help but curse angrily. That be **. Most of the people present had no relationship with Jianghu, so they did not care when they heard this. As for Rongxiu, his attitude towards Jianghu had always been as cold as the wind, so he naturally did not take it to heart. The only person who was upset when he heard this was Bailey June. However, Liang Xiaoxiao was about to explode in anger. How could she care about Bailey June? Besides, the one who was at fault was Jianghu. Even if Bailey June was unhappy, he was in no position to make a scene in front of her. Unbeknownst to her, Jianghu, who was being insulted by her, was at the scene and had heard everything clearly. Jianghu's heart was beating violently. Her blood was about to rush out, and her temples were throbbing. If it wasn't for her last bit of rationality, she would have already rushed over and ripped Liang Xiaoxiao's mouth apart. She clenched her fists so hard that her knuckles turned white. With great difficulty, he suppressed the emotions in his heart. These people were all waiting. So, at that time, my third brother's death. Liang Xiaoxiao gritted her teeth. So it's still related to her? Was it that bitch who told the elders not to save them? Alright. At that time, didn't Jianghu admit it herself? At that time, third brother had begged her, but she ignored him? At that time, Jianghu said that she couldn't persuade the academy elders, so she had no choice but to do so. But now, it was clear that she was the mastermind behind this matter. Chu Luiwei opened her mouth, but before she could say anything, Shiru took over. Actually, you can't completely blame Jianghu for this matter. After all, we couldn't even protect ourselves at that time. How could we have the extra strength to help? Jianghu clenched her fists so hard that they almost broke. Shiru seemed to be speaking up for her, but in fact, she was giving her a hard push. She was determined to kill her. However, no matter how much she wanted to argue, she couldn't open her mouth as she was wearing another face. A sweet and fishy smell surged up. Jianghu swallowed it. After hearing Shiru's words, many people expressed that they were convinced. Although the Meteor sect had a good relationship with Lingxiao College, it wasn't to the extent that they would put in so much effort for one of their students. Sure, Rupa was young, but she was very experienced in dealing with people and was very bold. Since she had said so, then it should be true. Chu Luiwei glanced at Sure, and the corners of her lips curled up. It felt good to have someone's help. She didn't persuade Zichen to release the legendary three-eyed eagle in vain. That canyon is very dangerous. It's hard to say whether anyone will live or die if they go in. We also suffered a lot when we went in. Sure tucked her hair behind her ear and said with a smile, I heard that many people here suspect that Chu Yu has a very good understanding of the northern territory of the Great Desolate Land. That's why he was able to obtain such a precious opportunity when others were having a hard time surviving. But I wonder if you have any evidence to prove it? The few people from the Meteor sect, including me, have been with them all this time. If Chu Yu was really up to something, how could we not know about it? Aren't you looking down on the Meteor sect too much? At the end of her speech, Shuru's tone carried a trace of displeasure and arrogance. Liang Xiaoxiao's arrogance was suppressed, and her expression became somewhat hesitant. Is this true or false? Liang Ye took the opportunity to pull her back. Sit down. How can you say such things without solid evidence? Liang Xiaoxiao could only clench her teeth and sit back down. After going around in circles, the problem still came back to Jianghu. If she had the chance to meet her, she would definitely teach her a lesson. I'm afraid that we can't come to a conclusion on this matter in such a short time. I think we should change the question. A man who seemed to be in his 30s suddenly spoke. He was wearing a dark purple robe. His cheeks were thin, and his facial features were ordinary. Only his eyes seemed to have thorns, and they were exceptionally sharp and deep. Chu Luiwei glanced at him, but didn't recognize him. Rong Xiu's voice was heard at this moment. Ziguang County's princess, Yao Bin. They have suffered heavy casualties in the northern territory of the Great Desolate Land. He was very close to Chu Luiwei, so his low and deep voice was exceptionally moving. Chu Luiwei's ears became slightly hot. In addition, they have a blood feud with the Black Demon Cave. Chu Luiwei immediately became alert and tapped her fingers on the armrest. Sure enough, in the next moment, the other party went straight to the point and asked directly. Chu Yu, it's rumored that you have a close relationship with the Black Demon Cave. How do you explain this? Chu Luiwei sat up straight. Unlike her previous carefree calmness, her expression was much more serious and solemn. I have nothing to do with the Black Demon Cave. She enunciated each word clearly. Yao Bin frowned, and his expression was dangerous. If you have nothing to do with it, why do you have the aura of the Black Demon Cave on you? Digression. It's over a 5-star rating in the bookstore. February is really too pitiful. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from the Love Network. Chapter 1454. Everyone looked over, their eyes full of scrutiny and doubt. Compared to Liang Xiaokong's death, they were more concerned about this. The Black Demon Cave had a bad reputation in the Divine Ruins world. Although they had kept a low profile in recent years, it did not change most people's impression of them. Therefore, when they heard that Chu Luiwei was related to the Black Demon Cave, a string in their minds immediately tightened. Elder Bo Yen and the others also looked over. They still did not know what was going on. If Chu Luiwei could not clarify this issue, she would be attacked by the crowd. Chu Luiwei narrowed her eyes. She had the aura of the Black Demon Cave on her? She had only exchanged blows with them in the past few times, but had not done anything else. Could it be the so-called aura was left behind because of this? It shouldn't be. She had never heard of anyone being able to leave their opponent's aura on their body while fighting. She said indifferently, Princess Yao, please forgive Chu Yu for not knowing what you mean. I did have a dispute with the people of the Black Demon Cave before, but that was all. As for the rest, I don't know what's going on. Elder Wan Zheng's expression changed slightly, and he could not help but ask in a low voice. Chu Yu, you fought with the Black Demon Cave before? Those are extremely vicious people. If Chu Yu ran into them, wouldn't he Fortunately, he was fine. It was not just Elder Wan Zheng. Hearing Chu Liyue's words, many of the people around felt their hearts beating like a drum. The people of the Black Demon Cave have not come out in recent years. How did you run into them? Yao Bin leaned forward, his eyes fixed on Chu Liyue. The pressure was extremely strong. Do you have any witnesses or evidence to back up your claims? Witnesses? Evidence? Chu Liyue could not help but chuckle. Princess Yao, why would I lie about something like this? Did he want her to resurrect Shangguan Wan? Besides, even if they didn't appear in public, it doesn't mean that they really don't go out, right? As far as I know, the strength of the Black Demon Cave can be considered tyrannical, and the scale of the entire sect is not small. Will they really obediently stay in their own territory and do nothing for the next few years? That was impossible. Yao Bin choked. Oh right, there's one more thing that I need to make clear to everyone. The person who fought with me is no longer a member of the Black Demon Cave. As for who he is, I have no idea. Not a member of the Black Demon Cave? How were they supposed to investigate? Yao Bin suddenly said, Chu Yu, my Purple Light County has fought with the Black Demon Cave for many years and can be considered to have some experience. I can confirm that you do have the aura of the Black Demon Cave. If you really have a clear conscience, do you dare to let me investigate? Chu Liyue's eyebrows twitched slightly. Before he could speak, he heard Rong Xiu's soft voice. How does Princess Yao plan to investigate? Yao Bin glanced at Rong Xiu, knowing that he intended to stand up for him. However, if he didn't get to the bottom of this matter, he definitely wouldn't let it go. Their Purple Light County would not easily let go of anyone who was related to the Black Demon Cave. Yao Bin took something from his hand. It was a thumb ring, completely carved out of purple jade. It was sparkling and translucent, glossy and shiny. As the light flowed, one could vaguely see something flowing slowly inside. A wave of pressure that could not be ignored spread out from it. This thumb ring can detect the aura of the Black Demon Cave. If there is anything related to the Black Demon Cave in Chu Yu's body, it will be forced out. If there is nothing, everything will be normal. As Yao Bin spoke, he looked at Chu Liyue. Chu Yu, do you dare to accept? Although it was somewhat shameful to accept such an investigation in public, there was no doubt that this was the most straightforward way to clear his name. No matter how much he said, it was better to verify his innocence. Chu Liyue pondered for a moment, then nodded. Good. Anyway, she had a clear conscience. What was there to be afraid of? Rong Xiu looked at her. Seeing her determined expression, his thin lips moved slightly, but he did not say anything in the end. Yao Bin stood up, walked to the center, and said to Chu Liyue, Please come forward. Chu Liyue walked over. The two of them stood still, separated by 10 steps. Yao Bin's expression was much more serious. He raised his hand, then closed his eyes. The thumb ring flew out from his hand, then headed straight for Chu Liyue. Soon, it stopped above Chu Liyue's head. Buzz. A roar sounded. Purple light instantly poured down like a waterfall, surrounding Chu Liyue. Chu Liyue's body was completely surrounded by that purple light curtain. In an instant, it was as if countless sharp and cold blades were scraping her body. Chu Liyue frowned slightly. But fortunately, the pain was not too intense, so she endured it. Everyone held their breaths and waited. Yao Bin didn't even blink as he stared at the screen. The passage of time seemed to be extraordinarily long. Suddenly, an unusual fluctuation came from Chu Liyue's universe ring. The purple jade thumb ring spun quickly, and the surrounding light curtain formed a whirlpool around Chu Liyue like water, emitting a sharp cry. Yao Bin's expression turned serious. There was indeed something fishy. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked. Some could no longer hold back and leaned forward, afraid that they would miss something. They would not know if they did not investigate, but once they did, there was really something wrong with Chu Yu. Elder Bo Yen and the others looked at each other and saw the shock and astonishment in each other's eyes. Didn't Chu Yu say that he had nothing to do with the Black Demon Cave? Now, Chu Liyue looked down. A white light suddenly flashed in her mind. How could she forget about the wooden tablet? Some time ago,
She had come to Fangzhou City with Luo Yanming and Zhuosheng to relax. At that time, she had met a middle-aged man at a street stall in the city. That man was the soul that had been chasing her relentlessly. It was also that time that she had obtained a wooden tablet from him. That was the wooden tablet of the Black Demon Cave. The totem of the Black Demon Cave was clearly engraved on it. After repelling the soul, she had wanted to destroy the wooden tablet, but after thinking about it again and again, she put it aside for the time being. She did not expect that it would cause her such trouble today. The whistling sound was even sharper. It was as if an invisible force was desperately drilling into the Qiankun ring in an attempt to force the wooden tablet out. However, even after a long while, the interspatial ring showed no signs of being broken. Yao Bin frowned. How could the defensive power of this universe ring be so strong? Chu Luiwei also suddenly thought of this question, and her heart skipped a beat. This was Rong Xiu's universe ring. It was also a symbol of the saint's identity. It was normal for it to be able to resist Yao Bin's power, but in the eyes of others, mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from the Love Network. Chapter 1455. Anyone with a brain would have guessed that there was something wrong with the interspatial ring. Chu Liyue's mind raced. Ever since she left the Yuntian Tower, she had disguised the interspatial ring whenever she went out. From the outside, it looked just like an ordinary gray interspatial ring. As long as one did not check it carefully, no one would think that the most noble ring of the Yuntian Tower was on her finger. But now, the interspatial ring easily intercepted Yao Bin's power. At this time, Yao Bin also noticed that something was wrong. He looked at Chu Luiwei with eyes full of suspicion. The interspatial ring on Chu Yu's finger seemed to be unusual. He was slightly angry. He suddenly raised his hand and threw out a divine power. The divine power quickly poured into the purple jade ring. In an instant, its momentum soared. The wind whistled. Chu Luiwei stood in the center of the vortex, her clothes fluttering. She almost felt that her body was about to be strangled by the violent power. She made a prompt decision. But a slight sound came out. She calmly removed the power from the interspatial ring and released the wooden tablet at the same time. Everyone only saw something suddenly fly out. Chu Luiwei staggered and quietly escaped from the vortex. At the same time, she resealed the interspatial ring. There were too many things hidden in it that could not be shown publicly. Yao Bin's figure flashed forward swiftly, and he held the wooden token tightly in his hand. Then he waved his wrist and took back the purple jade ring. The oppressive power disappeared, and Chu Luiwei finally breathed a sigh of relief. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. In the eyes of the onlookers, that thing could not withstand the pressure of the purple jade ring and was forced out. Didn't they see that Chu Yu's face was a little pale? However, no one had any other doubts. Except for Yao Bin. He glanced at Chu Luiwei suspiciously. In that instant, his intuition shouldn't be wrong. The ring on Chu Yu's finger was not ordinary. But it indeed only happened in an instant. Looking at Chu Yu now, it didn't seem like it. Could it be that he was wrong? A trace of uncertainty appeared in Yao Bin's heart. Princess Yao, what are you holding in your hand? A question interrupted Yao Bin's thoughts. He calmed down and planned to suppress these things first and talk about it later. The most important thing now was the Black Demon Cave. He glanced at the item in his hand, his expression suddenly became cold. Although he had guessed what it was before, when he saw the totem on the wooden tablet that he hated so deeply, his heart was still filled with endless resentment and anger. He clutched the wooden sign tightly and suddenly looked at Chu Luiwei. Chu Yu, this is the wooden tablet of the Black Demon Cave. And its level is quite high. If you really have nothing to do with the Black Demon Cave, why would you have such a thing on you? As soon as he said that, the crowd, Black Demon Cave's wooden tablet? That was not something an ordinary person. Wouldn't this confirm his previous suspicions towards Chu Yu? Everyone's This wooden tablet of the Black Demon Cave, it seems that only their own people have it, right? That's right. A few years ago, we fought with the Black Demon Cave and saw their people take out this wooden tablet with our own eyes. This wooden tablet is carved from sea buckthorn wood, and the totem of the Black Demon Cave is engraved in the middle. I heard that every totem was drawn with their own blood as a guide, and no one else can copy it. Moreover, they value this wooden tablet very much. Generally speaking, they would never let it fall into the hands of others. The crowd discussed fervently, clearly suspecting Chu Luiyue. It was as if they were certain that Chu Luiyue was in cahoots with the Black Demon Cave. Elder Bo Yen and the others were also stunned for a moment. Black Demon Cave's wooden tablet? How could that kid have such a thing on him? Elder Bo Yen was stunned for a moment, and then looked at Rong Xiu. The two of them had a close relationship. Did Rong Xiu know about this? Unfortunately, Rong Xiu's face was as calm and indifferent as ever, and no clues could be seen. As if sensing Elder Bo Yan's gaze, Rong Xiu glanced sideways, and the corners of his lips curled up imperceptibly, giving Elder Bo Yen a reassuring look. Elder Bo Yen heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that Rong Xiu knew what was going on. He was relieved. At first, he did not believe that Chu Yu had anything to do with the Black Demon Cave. Who did not know that Rong Xiu and the Black Demon Cave were enemies? If Chu Yu really had something to do with the Black Demon Cave, why would Rong Xiu protect him like this? Speaking of which, Rong Xiu was part of the reason why the Black Demon Cave had suddenly stopped in the past few years. However, not many people knew about this, so when the wooden tablet appeared, everyone was full of doubts about Chu Yu. Chu Luiyue coughed a few times. Without the pressure of the external force, her complexion looked better. However, her lips were still slightly pale, and it was not difficult to tell what kind of pain she had just experienced. Chu Luiyue looked at the wooden tablet and smiled helplessly. "So this is what you're talking about?" She rubbed her eyebrows. "Have you forgotten? I said just now that I've fought with their people. This wooden tablet was obtained at that time." Yao Bin did not believe it. "So simple? I don't think so." Everyone in the Black Demon sect has a wooden tablet like this. In other words, this is a symbol of their status. The stronger they are, the higher their level, the more importance they attach to the wooden tablet. The one in my hand must be a famous existence in the Black Demon sect. To be more direct, it must be a high god expert at the very least. Such a person, as long as they still have a breath left, would never let this wooden tablet fall into the hands of others, especially their enemies. You said that you obtained this thing at that time? Doesn't this mean that you killed a high god expert of the other party? Yao Bin twitched the corner of his mouth, and the lines on his thin face were cold and hard. Who would believe this? There was dead silence. It was not difficult to deduce that Chu Yu should have this wooden tablet before he entered the northern region of the Eldritch Desolation. After he returned, he had been staying in Lingshao College and had no chance to obtain this thing. When he entered the northern region of the Eldritch Desolation, he seemed to be a rank 8 warrior. With such strength, killing a high god expert, it was not a fool's dream? However, in the face of Yao Bin's questioning, Chu Luiyue's face did not show the slightest bit of panic. She laughed, and her tone was still calm. "Princess Yao seems to have forgotten one thing. I just said that the person who fought with me has already left the Black Demon sect. So this thing should not be that important to him, right?" Yao Bin was stunned, and the rest of his words were stuck in his throat. Yes, Chu Yu did say that. But at that time, he did not care. If that person was really no longer a member of the Black Demon sect, this wooden tablet would naturally become a piece of trash, not worth mentioning. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from the Love Network. Chapter 1456. Yao Bin stared at Chu Luiyue, as if he wanted to see through all her thoughts. At present, there were two possibilities. Firstly, Chu Yu had long known the importance of this wooden tablet to the people of the Black Demon sect, so he deliberately said those words to excuse himself. Secondly, Chu Yu did not know anything about this. He just happened to meet someone who had left the Black Demon sect and obtained this wooden tablet by chance. But for a moment, he was unable to determine what was going on. "Based on your words alone, we can't believe your words. Do you have any evidence? Or was there someone else who was fighting alongside you?" Chu Luiyue said honestly, "At that time, there was only him and me. No one else was present. Many people looked at each other. Alone? That was even more absurd. If someone helped, it wasn't impossible for Chu Yu to win this battle. But now, even he admitted that he was the only one. It was really hard to believe. Yao Bin's expression turned even colder as he gripped the wooden tablet tightly. If that's the case, I'm afraid we have to investigate thoroughly. Wait. Chu Luiyue opened her mouth and interrupted him. The corners of her lips curled up slightly as she smiled softly. Although I was fighting alone at that time, I have a witness for this matter. Witness? Including Yao Bin, everyone present was stunned. It was clearly a one-on-one battle. How could there be a witness? Just as everyone was filled with doubts, Chu Luiyue turned around and waved at Luo Yanming and Zhuosheng, who were standing behind Elder Wensi. Yanming, Zhuosheng, please help me testify. The two people who were suddenly called out were at a loss. Zhuosheng pointed directly at himself and asked in disbelief, "What? Why didn't he know that this matter had anything to do with them?" Luo Yanming stared at the wooden tablet and suddenly thought of something. He made up his mind and walked forward. "Hey, wait for me." Seeing him walk forward, Zhuosheng hurriedly chased after him. No matter what, Chu Yu needed their help, so they had to help. They quickly stood beside Chu Luiyue. Countless gazes fell on the two of them, causing them to involuntarily become nervous. Although the two of them were disciples of aristocratic families and could be considered to be experienced and knowledgeable. However, they had never experienced such a big scene where all the big shots of the divine ruins were staring at them. Those gazes seemed to materialize as they landed on their bodies, causing their bodies to stiffen. Even the carefree and carefree Zhuosheng had become much more obedient. Luo Yanming's heart was beating a little fast, and her hands in her sleeves were clenched tightly. He instinctively glanced at Chu Luiyue, but he saw that the young man beside her had a calm expression, a smile on his lips, and was at ease, as if he wasn't affected by the invisible pressure at all. This brat's attitude was too good, Luo Yanming in his heart. In such a situation, he too was to be in such a situation. But I heard that he was the one who suggested this meeting. Someone who could do such a thing naturally had a lot of guts. We can testify for Chu Yu. Luo Yanming took a deep breath and said word by word. He raised his hand and pointed at the wooden token in Yao Bin's hand. We just happened to be with him on the day he obtained the wooden tablet. We also know exactly how he obtained it. In short, what he said just now was true. Zhuosheng finally reacted and hurriedly nodded. That's right. We can indeed testify. This wooden token was bought by him from a peddler when we were strolling around Fangzhou City. He even cut the price by half. The corner of Yao Bin's eyes twitched. Chu Luiyue was both grateful and amused. Under such circumstances, anyone who stood up for her was taking a huge risk. But they still did it. Seeing that everyone seemed to be at a loss, Luo Yanming immediately recounted what happened that day. Of course, he and Zhuosheng did not participate in the part where Chu Luiyue chased out of the city and fought, so they skipped over it. But overall, it did indeed support Chu Luiyue's previous statement. Zhuosheng, who was at the side, added a few words from time to time. That's what happened. Luo Yanming let out a long sigh. If you don't believe me, there were a few elders and students who went with us to look for Chu Yu that day. They can also testify. It was all true that happened, so it was naturally more convincing. Silence reigned in the field. After a while, Yao Bin frowned and looked at Chu Luiyue. So, that day, that person deliberately used this wooden token to lure you out of the city, and you fought? Chu Luiyue nodded.
To be honest, I had a grudge with that person before, and I also knew that he was from the Black Demon Cave, so when I saw his wooden token, I chased after him without hesitation. However, after the fight, I found out that he had already left the Black Demon Cave. Actually, when you said that I killed him, it was not accurate. Because he was only a soul, and did not have a physical body. Just based on what I know, he had already possessed no less than 2 people. That day, I only forced him to retreat, and did not kill him completely. It was also because of this that I kept that wooden token, thinking that I would have the chance to investigate it in the future. Yao Bin's expression changed slightly. This series of explanations was really flawless. He pondered for a long time. In that case, I still have one last question. If you can answer it, I will believe what you said today, and completely dispel all my doubts about you. Chu Luiyue nodded. Please. Yao Bin stared at her with a heavy gaze. If that person was only left with a soul, his strength would definitely be reduced, but even so, he could possess someone, so he was at least at the level of a demigod. According to what you said at that time, you should only be a rank 8 warrior, right? How did you win? Even though the situation was somewhat different from what they had expected at the beginning, there was still a huge gap between a rank 8 warrior and a demigod. It was like a natural chasm of combat power, and it was simply impossible for others to catch up. Chu Yu fought alone and won. How did he do it? In fact, this was the question that everyone present was curious about. During this period of time, Chu Yu's name had spread throughout the divine ruins. Among them, there were many guesses about his talent and strength. One thing was certain, and that was that Chu Yu was indeed a genius. Moreover, he seemed to be quite talented in Xian Master and Celestial Physician. However, a genius was a genius, but he might not be a powerhouse. That battle was truly inconceivable. Hearing this, Chu Luiyue's lips curled up, and she smiled. Her eyes were curved, and her eyes were like stars. Because of this smile, his face, which could only be considered delicate and pretty, became lively. She said very seriously and sincerely, I have a trump card. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1457. Everyone? What kind of answer was that? They had seen arrogant people, but they had never seen such arrogant people. Yao Bin couldn't help but chuckle with some disapproval. Trump card? Then I wonder what kind of trump card could allow a rank 8 warrior to defeat a demigod? Since ancient times, such things were very rare. This Chu Yu, I really don't know what he was thinking, to actually give such an answer. Even if he had a trump card, in the case of an extremely tyrannical opponent, the weak wouldn't even have a chance to make a move. What's more winning? Chu Luiyue crossed his arms and supported his chin with one hand, showing a troubled expression. Trump card. At that time, she had taken out Scarlet Heaven Sword and directly killed the other party. If she said it, everyone would definitely guess that it was a venerable artifact. At that time, it might cause some trouble again, but if she didn't say it, it was obvious that the situation in front of her was unsolvable. Chu Luiyue's hesitant look, in the eyes of everyone, was undoubtedly guilty. What trump card? I think it's just an excuse he made up. That's right, a rank 8 warrior fighting a demigod, isn't this courting death? It's already very difficult to escape alive, and he actually said that he won. He really doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. I think either the origin of this wooden token is wrong, or he used other methods. Actually, no one has seen those people from the Black Demon Cave. Who knows if they really started fighting or all kinds of discussions drilled into their ears. Zhuosheng was anxious and couldn't help but shout, "What we said just now is all true." When Chu Yu came back that day, he was even injured. Being injured doesn't mean anything. Yao Bin looked at Zhuosheng coldly, and the tyrannical pressure suddenly pressed down on Zhuosheng's chest, making him unable to speak. His face quickly flushed red. Yao Bin! Elder Bo Yen suddenly shouted in a low voice. An invisible force flew out. Bang! A slight collision sound rang out. Zhuosheng immediately felt the pressure on his body dissipate.
He was finally able to relax and gasped for breath. However, his heart was still beating crazily and couldn't calm down for a long time. He knew that as long as the other party wanted to, he could take his life at any time. If not for Elder Bo Yan's help, Yao Bin, don't go too far. Elder Bo Yan's face seemed to be covered with a layer of frost. The coldness was threatening. Zhuosheng was only standing here as a witness. What right did Yao Bin have to make a move? The people of his Spirit Firmament Academy were watching right here. Yao Bin also felt that he had lost his composure. He frowned and his tone softened a lot. I just think he's a little noisy. After all, I asked Chuyu. This old man knows that Purple Light County and Black Demon Cave are like fire and water, so it is normal for Princess Yao to lose her composure. However, everyone was here today to solve the problem, not to create a problem. Princess Yao, please pay more attention in the future. Lingxiao College and Ziguang County did not have any grudges, and Yao Bin was not a bad person. Since the other party had lowered his stance, Elder Bo Yan did not intend to be too aggressive. Just a little bit of vigilance was enough. Elder Bo Yan raised his chin at Luo Yanming and Zhuosheng. You do come back. The two of them looked at Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue knew that they were worried about her, and her heart warmed. Don't worry, I'm fine. Only then did the two of them retreat. Princess Yao. Chu Luiyue looked at Yao Bin. If we continue to argue, no matter how much we say, no one will believe us completely. Why don't we change the method and end this quickly? Yao Bin frowned. What do you want to do? Chu Luiyue's lips curled up slightly as she looked around. Everyone should be thinking the same thing as Princess Yao, that I'm just lying. Since that's the case, why don't we have a match? Those who have come here today are all famous experts of the Divine Ruins world. Why don't everyone choose a demigod expert to fight with me? Let's see if I, Chuyu, can win this match. After a short silence, the crowd was in an uproar. Did this Chuyu know what he was saying? Fighting a demigod expert in front of everyone. Wasn't he looking for trouble for himself? Chu Luiyue had already expected their reaction, so she didn't care. She raised her chin slightly, and her smile deepened. In order to completely recreate the situation that day, I will also suppress my strength to the peak of the 8th stage. This way, after the battle, these people wouldn't have the chance to nitpick even if they wanted to. Yao Bin looked at Chu Luiyue in shock. Crazy. Really crazy. If Chu Yu fought with his current strength, perhaps he wouldn't lose so miserably. But he still wanted to suppress his strength to the 8th stage? He must be tired of living. Elder Bo Yan was a little anxious and wanted to object. However, before he could say anything, a low and pleasant voice suddenly sounded in his ear. Elder, let her do as she pleases. Elder Bo Yan turned his head in surprise. Rong Xiu. Rong Xiu's thin lips curled up slightly, revealing an extremely faint smile. Since she dares to say so, she must be prepared. He knew her too well. She wasn't someone who liked to be taken advantage of. After being bullied to such an extent, how could she let it go just like that? Even if the other party wanted to stop now, she wouldn't agree. Hearing this, Elder Bo Yan's heart calmed down a little. After thinking about it again and again, he could only nod. Forget it. If Chu Yu really couldn't beat the other party, it wouldn't be too late for him to make a move then. After all, he was from Lingxiao College and no one could bully him. Since Chu Luiyue took the initiative to say so, how could the others not agree? Yao Bin took a deep breath. Bold. This kind of courage wasn't something an ordinary person could have. He just didn't know if this Chu Yu was a newborn calf that wasn't afraid of tigers, or did he really have a trump card? Chu Luiyue smiled lightly and nodded. Thank you for the compliment. Then, who do you want to invite? Everyone looked around. There were many exalted gods here, but not many demigods. A slightly hoarse voice suddenly sounded. I'll do it. Bailey Jun turned his head in surprise. Lil Lu Yu, her body hadn't completely recovered yet. Jiang Jiwan's heart was very firm. There weren't many opportunities to kill Chu Yu in public like this. Chu Luiyue looked at the young man who stood out and narrowed her eyes dangerously. After a moment, she smiled brightly. Sure. You're welcome. Digression, today's 4th update,
tomorrow's 6th update. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1458. Everyone's eyes were fixed on Jiang Yuan, who had carefully disguised herself, with different expressions. From the outside, she looked like an ordinary young man in all aspects. And her aura was indeed that of a demigod. Originally, everyone was still a little hesitant about the candidate, but now that someone had stepped forward, they were relieved. Moreover, this person was brought here by Bailey June, so everyone had to give him some face. In some people's eyes, perhaps Bailey Chun was trying to support the young man he had taken a fancy to. After all, if she could show off in front of so many big shots in the world of God, she would definitely become famous. No one objected, so the matter was settled. Jiang Ji-won took a deep breath and walked forward. When she passed by Bailey June did not forget to remind her in a low voice. "Xiao Lu, be careful." Jiang Ji-won smiled and nodded. "Thank you, Patriarch." As she spoke, she continued to walk forward and to the center of the field, facing Chu Liwei. Yao Bin glanced at the two of them. He did not know this person called Xiao Lu, but if she was valued so much by Bailey June, she must be quite capable. He thought for a moment and said, "This match is very important. I hope that both of you can do your best and don't have any concerns. As long as it doesn't hurt your life, everything else is up to you." Many people were shocked. They all knew that this would be a fierce battle. Bailey June stared at the field, his old face expressionless. Only that pair of slightly turbid but still shrewd eyes revealed that he was not as unconcerned as he appeared to be. In fact, he had his own plans when he agreed to Jiang Ji-won's request. Jiang Ji-won had been expelled from Lingshao College and her reputation was almost ruined. In the world of God, she could not even raise her head. If she could win this match beautifully, everyone present would definitely look at her in a different light. At that time, it would be logical to reveal Jiang Ji-won's identity. At that time, Elder Bo Yen and the others would realize how much of a pity it was for them to give up on Jiang Ji-won. Choosing to support Chu Yu with all their might was a huge mistake. Bailey June's plan was perfect and he directly ignored this match. Jiang Ji-won was facing the opponent's rank 8 warrior with the strength of a demigod. This was an extremely unfair competition to begin with. It was normal for Jiang Ji-won to win. But if he lost, he would have nothing left. Chu Liwei looked at the young man in front of him and raised his eyebrows slightly. "May I know this brother's name?" Jiang Ji-won said calmly, "I'm only here to exchange blows with you. You don't need to know my name." Her identity was fake to begin with. It was fine if she said a vague name, but the more details she said, the easier it would be for people to find out. Rong Xiu was still here. If he wanted to investigate, she didn't think she could really avoid it. Chu Liwei shrugged and chuckled. "Don't misunderstand, I just feel that. You're a little similar to someone I know." Jiang Jiwan's heart skipped a beat, and a trace of impatience appeared on his face. "Time is of the essence, let's end this quickly." Chu Liwei smiled and agreed. "Okay." Before she finished speaking, Jiang Jiwan had already started to move. His feet were slightly crossed, his knees were half lowered, and the force around him was rapidly gathering. His aura was surging. Chu Liwei narrowed his eyes. This aura, it was a little different from what she had expected. Every cultivator's aura was unique. Once they made a move, those who were familiar with them would definitely be able to guess it. She originally thought, seeing Chu Liu's expression, Jiang Ji-won sneered in his heart. Since she had decided to come, of course, she had to be fully prepared. Before coming, Bailey June had already used the Yuan instrument to conceal and change her aura. Even if she used the force and attacked, she didn't have to worry about being detected. Moreover, with the help of the Yuan instrument, her combat strength was much stronger than before. In short, today's competition, she was definitely going to win. A jade-green origin power gushed out from her palm and quickly gathered in front of her to form a giant wheel. Then, with a flick of her other hand, a bright bead flew out. Bang! A crisp sound was heard. The bright white pearl the size of a longan collided with the center of the turquoise wheel. The sound was extremely crisp and clear, like jade hitting stone.
In the next moment, the pearl was like a drop of ink falling into water, quickly spreading out. Soon, the brilliant ball of light expanded rapidly, almost occupying half of the turquoise wheel, forming a small wheel. The turquoise and bright white intertwined, and it was especially eye-catching. It was emitting a powerful aura. When everyone saw this, they were all slightly shocked. 2 types of divine power. This person called Little Lu is actually so powerful? No way! A cultivator can only have 1 type of divine power in his body. Did he take out a bead and throw it in just now? That bright white divine power must have been stored in it in advance, right? As long as it is activated, the divine power in it can be released for one's own use. This divine pearl is very convenient to use, but the refining process is very complicated. Many people may not be able to refine a divine pearl that belongs to them even if they break through to the immortal realm. I don't know where Little Lu got it from. Are you stupid? Bailey June values it so much. What is this divine pearl? Hey, now that you mention it, Bailey June's divine power seems to be bright white? Could this divine pearl be? Of course, this was Bailey June's divine pearl. This time, he had brought Jianghu here. No matter how he thought about it, he felt that it was not safe. Just in case, he gave Jianghu a lot of good things to protect herself. This divine pearl was not worth mentioning in comparison. But in the eyes of others, this was a bit too much. This is not fair. Whispers of discussion could be heard from the crowd. What level is Bailey June at? The divine pearl that he refined with his own divine power is much more powerful than an ordinary immortal realm expert. That Little Lu took out this thing the moment he attacked. Isn't he bullying others? That's right. It was originally a demigod against a rank 8 warrior, and now he even used external force. Heh, is he afraid that he can't beat him? Actually, this matter is not as serious as you say. This is a competition in itself. No one said that it can't be like this, right? That's true, but I want to save face. It's not enough to fight a rank 8 warrior with the strength of a demigod, and I still want to take advantage of him. Although everyone present was here to find trouble with Chu Luiyue, they were still of noble status. High and mighty people cared about their reputation the most. It could be explained that they joined forces to interrogate a teenager to find out the truth. But what about the competition in front of them? Wasn't this bullying? The soft voices entered her ears, causing Jiang Jiwon to feel a little irritated. She steeled her heart and urged the power in her body faster. Clear sky, scorching sun wheel. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from the Love Network. Chapter 1459. The 2 overlapping wheels, one green and one white, suddenly began to rotate slowly in opposite directions. The middle part of the wheel made a click sound. If one listened carefully, it actually sounded like gears biting together. They were interlocked and very exquisite. As the 2 wheels intertwined and rotated, it also produced an astonishing pressure. The surrounding energy of heaven and earth began to quickly converge towards this side. One in front and one behind, it actually formed 2 energy vortexes. Hiss, to be able to fuse these 2 divine powers so perfectly, it's rare. It seems that this young man is not completely useless. To be able to catch the eye of Bailey June, it's naturally not ordinary. I think there seems to be a gap between these 2 divine powers. It can't be considered a perfect match. This person looks to be in his 20s. If he's a demigod expert, his talent isn't considered top-notch. As for Chu Yu, he seems to be only 17, right? He's already a stage 9 warrior. But now that the 2 of them are fighting, isn't it obvious who has the advantage? This match had nothing to do with their talent, it was only related to their current combat power. Jiangjun felt like there was a ball of fire in her heart that was constantly surging, as if it would explode from her chest in the next moment. She had heard enough of such words. So what if his talent was better? Before he grew into a true expert, he was just a piece of trash. Today, she would take revenge for both old and new grudges. Go! Jiang Juan roared. The huge wheel immediately crushed towards Chu Luiyue. Its speed wasn't fast, and it was very uniform and stable. It seemed to be too leisurely. However, wherever the wheel passed, the void collapsed, and a large area of black holes appeared. One could see how powerful it was. Before it arrived in front of her, a gust of wind had already swept over. Chu Liyue's clothes and hair fluttered in the wind. She narrowed her eyes slightly. The closer she got, the more she could feel the astonishing power between the two intertwining wheels. Once she was dragged into it, she was afraid that not even a complete corpse would be left. It was just a match to determine the winner. Why did he use such a killing move at the beginning? This young man who was specially brought by Bailey June seemed to have a deep hostility towards her, and even a killing intent. Chu Liyue flicked his wrist, and a dazzling blue-gold light flashed past. Everyone only saw a blur in front of their eyes before they saw a sword appear in Chu Liyue's hand. The blue-gold light came from the scabbard. Chu Liyue held the scabbard with one hand and raised his other hand, slowly grasping the slender and cold sword hilt. The surrounding power flowed like a river, causing the tassels at the end of the curl to sway gently. Chu Liyue's expression gradually darkened as he held his breath. His black jade-like eyes, which seemed to have sunk into a deep pool, gradually glowed with a piercingly cold light. An indistinct killing intent silently surged like the fog in the middle of the night. Unknowingly, everything was surrounded. There seemed to be an invisible barrier around her, isolating her from the outside world. It was as if no matter what happened outside, it would not affect her at all. Even at this moment, he was still calm and composed. Some people secretly exchanged glances. This Chuyu, it seems that he's not that simple. Jianghu met that pair of cold eyes, and in an instant, her entire body turned cold. An indescribable fear suddenly rose from the bottom of her heart. She clenched her teeth and tried her best to calm herself down and suppress her restless heartbeat. What was there to be afraid of? The strength of a rank 8 warrior, how strong could he be? Right now, she was 2 whole ranks higher than the other party. He was just putting on an act. Thinking of this, Jiang Jiwon's mood finally calmed down a little. Clang. Chu Liyue drew his sword. A streak of rainbow-colored light streaked across the sky. Some sharp-eyed people's expressions changed, and they immediately sat up straight. Their eyes were fixed on the sword. Those present were all strong people of the current era. What good things had they not seen before? Their eyesight was very sharp. The moment Chu Liyue took out the Scarlet Heaven Sword, someone immediately sensed that something was wrong. This is the divine weapon that the Golden Wing sect and Lingxiao College fought over in the Blue Feather Abyss? That's it. Previously in the northern region of the Primitive Desolation, Chuyu also used this sword to split open the door of the mysterious space. However, the aura of the sword at that time didn't seem to be so shocking. But this is indeed the same sword. Moreover, didn't Jean D suspect that it was actually a venerable divine weapon? Such an aura, such a pressure, how could a king divine weapon possess it? In fact, although everyone had heard of this news, there were not many who really took it to heart, because it had been too long since a venerable divine weapon appeared in the Divine Ruins world. Moreover, they actually knew the ins and outs of this divine weapon. At that time, the Golden Wing sect and Lingxiao College were fighting over it. In the end, for some reason, Jean Lei died, and Chuyu became the owner of that divine weapon by accident. If it was really a venerable divine weapon, would Lingxiao College be willing to give it up? But what they didn't expect was that Lingxiao College was really willing to give it up. Moreover, because of the mediation of Rong Xiu and the others, the elders didn't even pursue Chu Liyue. They just let her take away a venerable divine weapon. After all, Lingxiao College was not the same as these aristocratic families. Therefore, at this moment, when they saw the red cloud sword in Chu Liyue's hand, they only realized in hindsight and were full of shock. I've already said it. Jean D stared at the red cloud sword with bloodshot eyes. Although Chu Liyue had used the red cloud sword in public before, she just waved it casually and didn't display its true power. In addition, those people's attention was elsewhere at that time, so they didn't pay much attention to it. It was not until now that Chu Liyue was about to officially take action that they realized that they had made such a big mistake. But now it was too late for regrets.
After all, they couldn't openly snatch something from Lingxiao College's student in their territory, right? However, there were still some people who were quick-witted. Jianghu also saw it and couldn't help but feel jealous. The things that Bailey June gave her were not bad, and she was very satisfied at the beginning. But compared to a venerable divine weapon, it was nothing. This Chu Yu's background was unclear, and he was arrogant and undisciplined, which was very annoying. She really didn't know what the college and Rong Xiu saw in him. Suddenly, Chu Luiyue threw the scabbard into the air. A brilliant ray of light streaked across the air. In the next moment, Chu Luiyue held the sword with both hands and tiptoed. Her figure instantly flew out. She was very agile. She soared into the air. She raised the sword above her head. Whoosh! The surrounding energy of heaven and earth suddenly gathered toward the red cloud sword in a frenzy. In an instant, the world lost its color. It was a shock. Even the energy that was surging toward the wheel of the blue sky scorching sun was suddenly blocked by an invisible pressure. It changed direction and rushed into the red cloud sword at an even faster speed. What? Jiang Jiwan's heart skipped a beat. How could a venerable divine weapon be so domineering? Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1460. But before she could digest this shock, she saw an even more frightening scene. After forcefully plundering the energy of heaven and earth that the clear sky-scorching sun wheel was devouring, the scarlet heaven sword actually started to shake the power of the wheel. The two wheels that were originally rotating in perfect harmony were now affected by the terrifying pressure and actually started to shake. Crack! In the middle of the green and white wheels, a section suddenly staggered and let out an ear-piercing sound. The two forces instantly deviated from each other. They started to strangle each other. Jiang Jiwan's heart suddenly skipped a beat. The trace of fear that she had buried deep in her heart finally surged up at this moment. It easily drowned her. How could this be? How could this be? The duel had not officially started, and her opponent had only used a sword. It actually directly destroyed her attack. This move was a trump card that she had seriously practiced when she was following Bailey June. Other than the two of them, no one else knew that she would use this move. On one hand, she did not want to expose her identity. On the other hand, she wanted to get rid of Chu Yu directly, so she directly chose this move. Jiang Jiwan's mind raced as she quickly took out the second God's Pearl. It shot out. Bang! The God's Pearl entered the center. A vast and terrifying power surged out. In the blink of an eye, the bright white God's power quickly spread out and enveloped the entire huge clear sky scorching sun wheel. The white color was still white, and the green color also became white. The two wheels that were about to go berserk were finally controlled in time. The green God's power was devoured and completely merged with the small white wheel inside. The aura on it seemed to be even stronger than before. It continued to close in on Chu Luiyue. However, this scene caused many people to frown and shake their heads repeatedly. The balance between the two gods' powers was broken by Chu Yu, and little Lu was unable to do anything about it. He could only add another God's Pearl to completely cover his green God's power and barely control it. But, in this way, doesn't it mean that he didn't do anything at all, and only threw out two God's Pearls to deal with this competition? Bailey June is really good to him. He actually took out two God's Pearls so casually. I think we might be able to pull out a few more boosts later. If that's the case, why don't we just let Bailey June come up and fight with Chu Yu? Isn't that more direct and convenient? Everyone discussed animatedly, and there was no lack of ridicule. They were willing to give Bailey June face, but it did not mean that they were afraid of him. Look at this match. What did it look like? What a joke. That little Lu is representing us. His actions are really shameful. If I had known this would happen, I would have sent someone stronger up there. Isn't it too late to say that now? I only hope that after using so many methods, he won't lose in the end. That's hard to say. Chu Yu hasn't officially made his move yet. Bailey June was also anxious when he saw this. How could he have thought that Chu Yu actually had a venerable artifact?
But a mere rank 8 warrior shouldn't even have the strength to pick up a venerable artifact, so how did he unleash its might and power? Chu Luiyue did not care about the commotion outside and held her breath in concentration. In fact, everything happened in the blink of an eye. Scarlet Heavensword's efficiency in devouring the energy of heaven and earth was very high. Under normal circumstances, she could swing her sword in the blink of an eye. But today, she deliberately slowed down her movements. The huge wheel that was emitting a dazzling light was already in front of her. It was only a few steps away from Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue's eyes sharpened. The force in her limbs and bones seemed to have been summoned and surged out together. Then she decisively swung her sword. Scarlet Heavensword, break. Swoosh. The long sword slashed down. Kacha. A subtle but clear sound suddenly came from the wheel. Jianghu's smile suddenly froze. She looked in horror at a neat crack that appeared in the middle of the wheel. In the next moment, the wheel broke. The energy scattered in all directions. Boom. Following this shocking explosion, the originally Majestic will transformed into countless specks of light that swept out in all directions. Jianghu was the first to bear the brunt of the impact. Her body was instantly sent flying. Bam! She landed heavily on the ground and even slid quite a distance. A long trail of blood was left on the ground. Her back was burning with pain, and her internal organs felt like they were being crushed by something. Jianghu spat out a mouthful of blood. She had not recovered from her injuries to begin with, and now that she was injured again, she was even more miserable and almost fainted. Bailey Jun suddenly stood up. He waved his sleeves and was about to attack. However, at this moment, Rong Xiu suddenly looked over. There was a faint smile on his devilish face, but his eyes were as deep as the sea and as sharp as a knife. Clan leader, you seem to be very concerned about this person? The competition is not over yet. Wouldn't it be inappropriate for you to attack? You, Bailey Chun choked on his words. He was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. He gritted his teeth and finally sat back down. I know. There was dead silence. Princess Yao. Chu Luiyue suddenly tilted her head and looked at Yao Bin, who was standing at the side. He subconsciously looked over, and there was still a look of shock on his face. It was obvious that Chu Luiyue's current abilities had far exceeded his expectations. Did you see it clearly just now? Chu Luiyue curved her lips into a smile. That's how I won that day. Then she looked around. Her tone was still casual and calm, and her smile was gentle. Everyone, if there's anyone who didn't see it clearly, I can demonstrate it again. Digression. Yesterday I broke my hand washing socks. I cried because of my stupidity. After a night, it's already much better. Sob sob sob. Update will continue at 6:00 p.m. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from love. Chapter 1461. Demonstrate again? Even if he had the strength to swing his sword again, Lil Lu might not be alive enough to withstand a second strike. Chuyu, don't go too far. Before Yao Bin could say anything, Bailey Jun was the first to reprimand him. Chu Luiyue turned around and blinked at Bailey Jun. Clan leader Bailey, I'm just explaining to everyone. How is that going too far? Suddenly, she had a look of realization. Oh, are you talking about me injuring this person? We're in a competition, so there has to be a winner, right? Also, we've only exchanged one move. She looked innocent, as if she was at a loss of what to do. A low chuckle suddenly came from the quiet crowd, but it was quickly suppressed. However, this chuckle seemed to have flipped a switch. The originally cold and solemn atmosphere became subtle. Many people could not help but laugh and secretly exchange glances with each other. One move. Wasn't it just one move? From beginning to end, Chu Yu had only swung his sword once. What's more, he didn't do anything. In the end, it was Lil Lu who did not live up to expectations. She could not win with 2 of Bailey Jun's divine pearls, and was even beaten to a pulp by her opponent. Not only did Bailey Jun not feel embarrassed, he even had the cheek to be angry here? What a joke! Originally, Everyone thought that those who could be brought here by him must have top-notch talents. Now, it was obvious that she was an idiot who could not handle the situation. They really did not know what Bailey June was thinking. No one spoke, and the scene was very quiet. However, everyone's thoughts were more or less expressed on their faces. How could Bailey June not see it? After living for so long, how could he not see the mockery and ridicule of others? He could not feel it. Those people looked at Jiang Ji-won on the ground, then looked at Bailey June with meaningful eyes. Bailey June felt like he was sitting on pins and needles. His face was red and his throat was tight. For a moment, he did not know how to refute. It was a competition. It was a battle. Moreover, it was an extremely crucial match. He couldn't possibly stop them from making a move. Bailey June's blood was rushing through his veins. His heart was beating like a drum, and his temples were throbbing. He was about to explode from anger. He glanced at Jiang Ji-won, feeling both angry and distressed. Get up! If it weren't for the fact that there were so many people watching, he would have personally helped her up. But Rong Xiu's words just now made him vigilant, so he didn't dare to be too presumptuous, so he had no choice but to comply. Jiang Jun also felt wronged. How could she have known that this Chu Yu was actually so terrifying? Once the Venerable One's divine weapon was used, it was simply unstoppable. What was the point of talking about winning or losing? In front of so many people, with the strength of a demigod, he lost to the opponent's rank 8 warrior. This was worse than killing her. She was as proud and complacent as she was at the beginning, and now she was as angry and resentful as she was angry. She struggled to get up, pulling at her wound. It was so painful that her vision turned black. Seeing the mottled bloodstains on the ground, she was shocked and her hatred for the young man in front of her increased. This Chu Yu, was he here specifically to subdue her? At this moment, Chu Luiyue suddenly took a step forward. Jiang Ji-won was frightened and subconsciously took a few steps back. In a moment of carelessness, she fell to the ground again. More blood oozed out of the wounds on her body. It was mottled and messy, and she looked very miserable. What else do you want? Because of nervousness and fear, Jiang Ji-won's voice became shrill and ear-piercing. Chu Luiyue looked at her in surprise. I just wanted to ask if you were going to admit defeat. Why are you so nervous? Jiang Ji-won's face turned red and white. She felt that she had completely lost her face. And Bailey June had already turned his eyes away. Out of sight, out of mind. He really hated to see Jiang Ji-won's useless and cowardly appearance. In the past, Jiang Ji-won was confident, generous, and likable. Why did it suddenly become like this now? There were so many top experts in the Divine Ruins world present, and each of them had a high status. If they saw this scene, who knew how they would mock him behind his back? And Yuntian Tower. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but look at Rong Xiu, only to see the man leaning against the back of the chair with a relaxed expression and a lazy posture. His thin scarlet lips were slightly raised, as if he was smiling. Smiling? At this time, Rong Xiu could still smile? Didn't he think that this was a loss of face for Yuntian Tower? Holy Sun, say a few words. Bailey June couldn't help but frown and speak. Rong Xiu tilted his head and looked over. His expression was gentle, but his eyes were cold. He had a faint smile on his face. What does the patriarch want I to say? Say what? Of course it was to speak up for Jiang Ji-won. Bailey Chun was infuriated. Rong Xiu was clearly doing this on purpose. Of course, it's about this match. Bailey June reminded him vaguely. As long as Rong Xiu spoke, he represented Yuntian Tower's position. Chu Yu probably couldn't go too far. As if he understood Rong Xiu's hint, Rong Xiu looked enlightened. He turned his gaze and looked at the arena. Chu Yu, he spoke lazily. His voice was low, but it was full of magnetism. It easily tugged at people's heartstrings without batting an eyelid. Everyone pricked up their ears. Then, they heard Rong Xiu say with a faint smile. You did well. Dead silence. Bailey June's expression instantly cracked. Jiang Ji-won looked like she was struck by lightning. She was about to go crazy. She thought Rong Xiu would speak up for them, but he actually went to praise Chu Yu? Son of God. Bailey June tried to suppress the anger in his heart, but his eyes were burning with flames. Little Lu is a member of Yuntian Tower, you patriarch. You just came out of seclusion not long ago, there are some things that you don't know. Rong Xiu interrupted him and chuckled. From the beginning to the end, I stood on junior brother Chu Yu's side, just like the academy. Now that she had won and had proven her strength and innocence, could it be that she was still not worthy of a compliment? Rong Xiu said slowly. Bailey June suddenly choked. He knew. Of course he knew. Jianghu had told him before that Rong Xiu took great care of Chu Yu. After hearing this, he naturally didn't have a good impression of Chu Yu. This time, he came with the intention of destroying Chu Yu's prestige. He was so focused on helping Jianghu vent her anger that he completely forgot about this. Only now did he realize that Rong Xiu had drawn a line between them from the beginning to the end. It was their own business to lose face. What did it have to do with him? Chu Liyue smiled, her eyes curved. Thank you, Your Highness. Then she looked at Jiang Ji-won and raised her eyebrows. It seems that you still don't want to admit defeat? With that, she took another step forward. This step was like stepping on Jiang Ji-won's heart. She stopped breathing and shouted almost reflexively. I admit defeat. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1462. Because of her nervousness and fear, she shouted quickly and hurriedly. She even lost her voice. It was as if she was begging for mercy when someone grabbed her by the neck. Many people sneered, their faces full of sarcasm. That's it? She was really unpresentable. It seemed that Bailey June was really old and muddle-headed. Moreover, Rong Xiu's words just now were very meaningful. The two people with the highest status, Yun Tianke and Li Qingshan, clearly had a great disagreement. It was not an exaggeration to say that they were on opposite sides. It was just that they had not completely shed all pretense of cordiality. However, this day might not be long in coming. Chu Liyue nodded in satisfaction, then looked at Yao Bin. Princess Yao, I wonder if you are satisfied with this competition? Yao Bin looked at the scene in front of him in a daze, his mood complicated. In a short time, the situation had taken a turn for the worse. He originally thought that Chu Yu's speech was merely an excuse for him to absolve himself, and it was also extremely absurd, not knowing the immensity of heaven and earth. But reality slapped him in the face. At this moment, when he met that pair of black and bright eyes, he felt his face burning. But it could not be helped. Before the results came out, who would have thought that Chu Yu would win? But not only did he win, but he won beautifully. Yao Bin's hands clenched and loosened. In the end, he could only sigh. I believe your previous explanation and am willing to keep my promise. From now on, I will not suspect that you have any unusual relationship with the Black Demon Cave. Yao Bin took a while to accept reality, but it could be said that he was decisive. Then, he took a step forward and cupped his hands at Chu Liyue. Previously, I misunderstood you, so I apologize to you. Chu Liyue tilted her head and smiled. Princess Yao is too polite. I know that you also want to find out the truth, and I can take this opportunity to clear my name. It's a good thing. You don't have to take it to heart. The reason why Yao Bin was so aggressive toward her previously was that he believed in his heart that Chu Liyue had something going on with Black Demon Cave. Purple Light County and the Black Demon Cave had a blood feud, so it was normal for him to have such a reaction. What was rare was that after knowing that he was wrong, he could still apologize in public. He had completely let go of his pride, which could be considered magnanimous and upright. Chu Liyue had a good impression of him. If he wanted to deal with the Black Demon Cave in the future, he might be able to join forces with them. Of course, this was a matter for the future. This thought flashed through Chu Liyue's mind, but she quickly suppressed it. She raised her head slightly and flicked her wrist. Clang. He sheathed his sword. With a brilliant flash of light, Scarlet Heaven Sword returned to her hand. In the surroundings, many gazes fell upon Scarlet Heaven Sword. Chu Liyue's eyes flickered as he sneered in his heart. Today, she took out the Scarlet Heaven Sword, which would definitely attract a lot of trouble. Right now, these people were restraining themselves for the sake of the academy.
However, in the future, it was hard to say. He's just relying on the divine might of the Venerable One's divine weapon. A low voice that was obviously suppressing something was heard. Chu Luiyue raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at Jiang Jiwan, who had just turned around and was about to retreat. He took a step forward and blocked the other party's path. Jiang Jiwan's heart skipped a beat. She looked up at Chu Luiyue with a trace of panic in her eyes. What are you doing? I should be the one asking you that. Chu Luiyue smiled. Don't tell me you don't understand the principle of accepting defeat? I'm still here. What do you mean by that sentence just now? Everyone looked over again. Jiang Jiwan was extremely nervous. The terrifying experience from the fight just now had left a heavy shadow on her. She almost didn't have the courage to face Chu Luiyue again. However, she was still unwilling to accept it. Avoiding Chu Luiyue's intimidating gaze, Jiang Jiwan lowered her head. I didn't say anything. It seems that you're very dissatisfied with the result of the fight just now. Faced with Chu Luiyue's questioning, Jiang Jiwan was about to break down. She was already in a bad mood after losing. Everyone was praising Chu Yu and belittling her, as if there was a huge gap between them. However, that was not the case. If she also had a venerable artifact, how could she have lost? Therefore, Jiang Jiwan hesitated for a moment and chose to admit it. I'm just telling the truth. She gritted her teeth. If you don't use that venerable artifact and fight with me, it's still unknown who will win. The surroundings were silent for a moment. Everyone could hear the provocation in her words. Bailey Jun opened his mouth and wanted to stop her. However, after thinking about it, he swallowed those words. In fact, he also thought so in his heart. He could tell that Chu Yu's strength was much more powerful than ordinary cultivators of the same level, but it was not so incredible. The most important thing was still that venerable artifact. Chu Luiyue stared at Jiang Jiwan for a while and suddenly smiled. Since you think so, then let's have another fight? As soon as she said that, everyone was shocked. Jiang Jiwan suddenly looked up and looked at her in disbelief. What did you say? Since you're not convinced, then let's change the method and beat you until you're convinced. Chu Luiyue smiled, but every word she said was as sharp as a knife. It was precisely this casual attitude that made Jiang Jiwan's anger explode in an instant. The other party had a venerable artifact, she could not beat him. But if it was a normal fight, how could she not win? However, if that's the case, I won't suppress my strength anymore. Chu Luiyue added. 9th stage warrior? Jiang Jun did not care. She seemed to be afraid that Chu Luiyue would go back on her words and immediately said, Okay, then it's a deal. Digression. The 6th watch might be a little later, about 6:30 p.m. Mobile users, please browse and read, a better reading experience from the Love Network. Chapter 1463. Just like that, the two of them decided on a new match with just a few words. No one stopped them. Some people wanted to see if Chu Yu really had the strength to win against a demigod without the venerable artifact. Some people wanted to test the true level of Chu Yu's combat strength. There were also people who purely wanted to watch the show and didn't mind blowing things up. The only people who were worried were the people from Lingshao College. This kid, Elder Bo Yen, wanted to dissuade them, but before he could say anything, the two of them had already decided. Moreover, this matter was proposed by Chu Yu himself. If he objected, he would look a little guilty. Bo Yen, don't worry. That kid won't lose so easily. Elder Hua Feng leaned closer and said in a low voice. Elder Bo Yen turned his head and glanced at him. How could he be so sure? There was still a difference between a rank 9 warrior and a demigod. Elder Hua Feng suddenly chuckled, touched his chin, and looked at the field. Others didn't know, but he knew. That kid had many trump cards. If he didn't allow him to use Scarlet Heaven Sword, he could still use other trump cards. Poor Xiaolu. He was covered in wounds and thought that he had a chance to turn the tables. There was also Bailey Jun. If he still had a bit of rationality, he wouldn't agree to the second match now. He didn't think about it. Chu Yu suppressed his strength to that of a rank 8 warrior and was still able to wield Scarlet Heaven Sword.
How could an ordinary person compare to him? Seeing Elder Huafeng's expression of waiting to watch a good show, Elder Bo Yen felt a little strange, but his heart calmed down a lot. He also turned his head, intending to see how things would develop. Jiang Jiwon took out a pill and swallowed it. A warm and gentle force instantly spread to her limbs and bones. This made her feel much better. Dragging a heavily injured body, her combat strength would definitely be greatly reduced. But she wanted to win too much. What did he eat just now? Why do I smell the scent of a bewildering fragrance pill? Elder Wan Zheng's nose twitched as he frowned slightly. This kind of pill was very precious and could only be refined by venerable doctors. And its effect was extremely special. This kind of medicinal pill could, for a short period of time, allow a cultivator to ignore their injuries and unleash their strongest power. Sometimes, it could even allow a heavily injured person to display strength that exceeded their normal level. However, the side effects of this bewildering fragrance pill were also very strong. This was because this was equivalent to overdrafting the cultivator's physical strength and energy. After half an incense stick of time passed, the body of the person who had taken the pill would rapidly deteriorate. If it was not treated in time, it would leave irreversible damage. Therefore, under normal circumstances, only in a life and death situation would people be willing to use this thing. This was just a competition. It had to be said that Jiang Jiwon was going all out by doing this. That is indeed the bewitching fragrance pill. Rong Xiu said calmly. Elder Wan Zheng's frown deepened. It's just a competition, not a life and death battle. What is he trying to do? Their precious disciple had a good temper and was not someone to be bullied. Rong Xiu looked at the field. Chu Liuyue's shoulders and back were straight, like a pine tree. After seeing Jiang Jiwon take the bewitching fragrance pill, she raised her eyebrows slightly, seemingly a little surprised. Rong Xiu lowered his eyes slightly, hiding the smile that flashed across his eyes. Her acting was really realistic. She was clearly waiting for her opponent to do this, but she still pretended to be surprised. It seemed that this time, she was determined to completely take care of her opponent. Chu Luiyue did it on purpose. It was not like she had nothing better to do. Did she want to do this again just to prove that she was stronger than her opponent? Or did she take the initiative to give up the venerable artifact and fight with her opponent barehanded? Her opponent was brainless, but it did not mean that she was the same. This move was to retreat in order to advance. It could not be simpler. Her opponent's desire to win was very strong. At this time, as long as there was a slight chance of winning, her opponent would grab it tightly. Chu Liuyue thought to herself, Amitba. She had always been kind and could not bear to see others being tortured. Her opponent was about to go crazy and only wanted to die. How could she bear to look on helplessly? It was better to be kind and help Buddha all the way to the west. Please. Chu Liuyue seemed to have heard the words about the bewitching fragrance pill from the people around her. She frowned slightly and looked slightly nervous. Jiang Jiwon clenched her fists. The wounds on her body did not hurt anymore, and there was constantly energy surging from all parts of her body. It gathered in her dantung. It had been a long time since she felt so full of energy and her combat strength was off the charts. Although the bewitching fragrance pill had side effects, she was certain that she could definitely take care of her opponent within half an incense's time. In fact, it would only take one move. Jiang Jiwon's confidence increased greatly, as if she could already imagine the scene after she won. She was filled with excitement, and the expression on her face was almost impossible to hide. She did not want to hide it either. The next moment, she crossed her hands in front of her. The turbulent force gathered. The aura around her increased greatly. After a while, a cry of surprise came from the crowd. Why is her aura still increasing? Is she going to break through to the exalted God realm? Not long after that, a light appeared between Jiang Jiwon's brows. A totem appeared clearly, and the pressure on her body officially broke through to the exalted God realm. Relying on the power of the bewitching fragrance pill, she forcefully raised her realm temporarily. Many people's expressions changed slightly. When they looked at Chu Luiyue again, they could not help but shake their heads. Although this was very dangerous, it was very useful. A exalted god powerhouse could easily crush a stage 9 warrior with one hand, right? Jianghu felt a tearing pain in her body. It was caused by forcefully raising her realm. But she did not care. As long as she could win, what did this matter? She threw out a punch. It was simple and direct. At this time, tyrannical strength was better than any tricks. The shadows of her fists were everywhere, heading straight for Chu Liyue's face. She did not move. Why isn't Chu Yu moving? Is he stupid? Some people secretly frowned. Even if he could not win, he could run. What was the point of standing there in a daze? However, just as that terrifying power was about to crush and devour Chu Liyue, a clear cry suddenly resounded through the world. Screech! A crimson gold light burst out from Chu Liyue's body and instantly flourished. Then, a huge figure appeared in front of Chu Liyue. Its entire body was golden and its pressure was impressive. Crimson gold heavenly phoenix. Everyone was shocked on the spot. Some of them could not even suppress their impulse and directly stood up. They stared dumbfoundedly at the ancient mythological beast that had suddenly appeared. How? That's Chu Yu's contracted divine beast. Someone suddenly shrieked with a trembling voice. Boom! Dumpling's wings flapped, and the heavy shadows of the fists dissipated with a loud bang. Jianghu was also shocked. Her whole body was cold, and great fear surged in her heart. Crimson gold heavenly phoenix? When did this happen? Dumpling. Chu Liyue said with a smile. Bring this person to have a good walk. Screech. Dumpling leaned down and clamped Jianghu with its claws. It flew up. Chu Liyue touched his chin. Half an incense's time, it would be over after 2 rounds. Digression. Tomorrow is the 11th of the double 11. I don't know if I'm going to write or look at Taobao at night. Sob 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 sob. Chapter 1464. Dumpling's extremely sharp claws pierced through Jianghu's skin and dug deep into her flesh. The sharp pain caused Jianghu's face to turn ghastly pale. The reddish gold flame burned as if it was going to roast and devour her. Jianghu was shocked and terrified as she struggled with all her might. However, her strength was nothing in front of the reddish gold celestial phoenix. It was true that she had broken through to the great deity level, but the other party was an ancient divine beast. The two of them were not on the same level at all. What was there to fight over? It was a complete suppression. Jianghu endured the pain and forced herself to look down. She was shocked to find that she was being taken away. Where did this beast want to take her? If she could not break free after half an hour, then she was done for. Deep fear surged in Jianghu's heart. She hurriedly mobilized all the strength in her body, wanting to struggle out. Let me down. You beast. Let me go. Dumpling's gaze turned cold. She was courting death. Dumpling flew even faster while exerting force with its claws. It actually broke a few of Jianghu's ribs. Hiss! Jianghu sucked in a breath of cold air from the pain. Her whole body trembled. She even vaguely felt that those sharp claws were about to dig out her internal organs. Immense fear surged in her heart. Jianghu's pale lips trembled. She could not rely on herself. She was afraid that, help! Clan, smack! Dumpling swung one of its wings down and directly slapped Jianghu's head. There was a dull thud. Jianghu's vision turned black, and she fainted right away. Dumpling leisurely carried the stiff Jianghu just like that and flew further away. Master said that he had to make 2 rounds. In the square, everyone was stunned by this sudden scene. For a long time, no one made a sound. She left just like that? What was going on? Seeing Jianghu being taken away, Bailey Jun was the first to react. He suddenly stood up and stared at Chu Liyue. Chu Yu, what are you doing? His stern voice was filled with anger. Chu Liyue narrowed his eyes and then smiled. Clan leader Bailey, didn't everyone see clearly what I was doing? I'm competing. What kind of competition is this? That reddish gold celestial phoenix, that crimson gold celestial phoenix is my contracted divine beast. There's nothing wrong with me summoning it to battle, right? Chu Liyue's lips curved up, but her eyes were cold and clear. I've already promised not to use that divine artifact. Could it be that I'm not even allowed to summon magical beasts? Bailey Junes. Of course, there was no such logic in the world. Any cultivator who had a contract with a magical beast would always tacitly agree that the magical beast was one with them. There was nothing wrong with that. It was just that the contracted magical beast he had summoned was too shocking. Ancient divine beast. Only a few of the people present had seen it before, let alone a contract? If you think I'm breaking the rules by summoning Dumpling, then shouldn't you have said it in advance? Isn't it a bit late to mention it now? Chu Liyue said slowly. Bailey June's face turned pale. Say it in advance? How would he have thought that this ordinary-looking youth would actually have such a trump card hidden up his sleeve? If he had known, he wouldn't have let Jianghu fight. But it was too late to say anything now. He looked up and saw that Jianghu had been taken further away. That reddish-gold celestial phoenix had no intention of coming back. Half an hour would pass soon. If Jianghu couldn't be treated in time, then ask that reddish-gold celestial phoenix to bring Yuan Xiao Lu back immediately. If anything happens to her, I won't let you go. Chu Liyue blinked. But isn't the competition still ongoing? Bailey June was fuming. What competition? I'm ordering you to stop the competition immediately. Chu Liyue's smile was polite but cold. Patriarch Bailey, you don't seem to have the right to say that right now. Bailey June had been the patriarch of Yuntian Tower for 100 years. He had always been high and mighty. When had he ever been refuted like this? And in front of so many people. Chu Liyue's words ignited the fire in his heart that had been suppressed for a long time. How dare you? Before he finished his words, he raised his hand and a force flew out. The force turned into a sword and flew towards Chu Liyue's chest. The sound of air breaking was ear-piercing. Everyone's expression changed. No one expected that Bailey June would suddenly make a move. Elder Bo Yen and Elder Wanjing made a move together. Chu Yu, be careful. However, there was one person who was faster than them. A golden stream of light streaked across the sky and instantly transformed into a huge net. It arrived first and surrounded the sword. Then it quickly tightened. Bang! A crisp sound was heard. The sword shattered with a loud bang. The terrifying force spread in all directions, but it was quickly swallowed by the golden net and disappeared without a sound. Then, the golden net quickly condensed into a small butterfly. It paused on Chu Liyue's shoulder for a while before quietly dissipating. Chu Liyue's eyes flickered. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. From the beginning to the end, Bailey June's force did not even touch Chu Liyue's body. Everyone quieted down. Their eyes wandered back and forth between Rong Xiu and Bailey June. They all had different thoughts. The one who made a move was actually Rong Xiu. Although they had long known that these two people were not on good terms, they had always thought that Rong Xiu and Bailey June would not fall out with each other for the sake of the Yuntian Tower and other factors. However, they did not expect everything to happen so quickly. Rong Xiu's interference was akin to slapping Bailey June's face in front of everyone. There was no turning back now that he had made a scene in front of so many people. Rong Xiu had always been farsighted and strategizing. It was impossible that he did not know how far the situation would go once he made a move. However, he still did it. Moreover, he did it without hesitation. Even Elder Wanzheng and the others were a step slower. The atmosphere was tense and the space was frozen. Bailey June's expression was extremely ugly. He stared at Rong Xiu. Your Highness, what is the meaning of this? He had only been in seclusion for a few years, but the moment he came out, the world had changed. Now, Rong Xiu was becoming more and more arrogant. He actually dared to fight him in public. Where was his face? What Bailey June did not know was that Rong Xiu did not care about his face at all. The reason why he made a move just now was very simple. Of course, I will protect my people, said Qin Wenyan. His expression was open and magnanimous, and his voice was low and pleasant. He leaned against the back of the chair, his posture languid and calm. It was as if he did not care about what happened just now at all. The competition is still going on. Patriarch, if you act so rashly, won't others think that Yuntian Tower can't afford to lose? Before Bailey Jun could fly into a rage, Rong Xiu spoke first. A hint of a smile flashed across his lips as he reminded, everyone is still watching. You can afford to lose face, but don't drag Yuntian Tower down with you. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1465. Bailey Jun had never been so embarrassed. However, Rong Xiu's attitude was firm and reasonable. He didn't know how to refute it. What shocked him even more was that Rong Xiu's strength seemed to be stronger than he expected. Indeed, he only used 50% of his strength in that attack, but the fact that Rong Xiu could block it so easily was already very telling. After calming down for a moment, he took a deep breath and forcefully suppressed the resentment and anger in his heart. He couldn't drag it on any longer. Jiang Jiwan's body couldn't hold on for that long. Thinking of this, Bailey Jun took a deep breath and looked at Chu Luiyue. In that case, this old man will represent her to admit defeat. This way, the competition can finally end? Everyone looked at each other. Bailey Chun really treated that person called Xiao Lu well. Since you've said so, of course there's no problem. Chu Luiyue smiled. Bailey Jun snorted and sat back on the chair. However, after waiting for a while, the crimson gold heavenly phoenix didn't return with Jiang Jiwan. His brows furrowed once more as he questioned, Chuyu, why is your crimson gold heavenly phoenix still wandering around there? There wasn't much time left. Chu Luiyue smiled. Oh, you're talking about that. Dumpling hasn't come out to play for a while. It's rare for her to come out, so she's wild. It might take a while for her to come back. Bailey Jun suddenly became anxious. A while? Then wouldn't it be meaningless for me to take the initiative to compromise? You ask it to come back immediately. Xiao Lu is injured and needs to be treated as soon as possible. Chu Luiyue looked troubled. But Dumpling is lively and sometimes doesn't listen to me. You see, Bailey Jun was about to die of anger. What nonsense are you talking about? Since it's your contracted magical beast, it should obey you. If you ask it to come back, would it dare to disobey? How dare it? Chu Luiyue replied immediately. She blinked her eyes and smiled apologetically. Oh, you probably don't know, but Dumpling is an ancient divine beast, so its temper is a bit bigger. Sometimes, even I can't do anything about it. The corners of everyone's mouths twitched. He didn't know, who would know such a thing? They didn't have any contracts with ancient divine beasts. This Chuyu's mouth was really poisonous. Patriarch. Rong Xiu suddenly tilted his head and smiled faintly. When Xiao Lu swallowed the bewildering fragrance pill, he should have thought of this result. We have to be responsible for our own choices, don't we? Bailey Jun was speechless. He was anxious and regretful. However, he did not dare to reveal Jiang Jiwan's true identity. In that case, his face would be completely lost. In the future, Jiang Jiwan might not even be able to return to the Yuntian Tower. He could be biased and protective of her, but if it involved the interests of the Yuntian Tower, not to mention Rong Xiu, 36 respected Elder Ming and the others would not let it go. Therefore, he could only accept it. Time passed by bit. Seeing that half an incense was about to burn out, Bailey Jun finally couldn't help but speak again. Chuyu. This old man will say it one last time. If anything happens to Xiao Lu, you will not be able to get away with it. This Chuyu was clearly doing it on purpose. He stood up. This old man will go personally. If that crimson gold heavenly phoenix did not come back, he could go after it himself. However, just when Bailey Jun thought that Chu Luiyue would continue to stall for time this time, she suddenly smiled brightly. Patriarch Bailey, why are you in such a hurry? Look, isn't that back? What? Bailey Jun was stunned and looked up following Chu Luiyue's line of sight. Sure enough, he saw a streak of crimson gold streaking across the sky quickly. It was the crimson gold heavenly phoenix that had left for a while. Chu Luiyue seemed to heave a sigh of relief as she waved at Tuanzi. Dumpling. You're finally back. Didn't you see how anxious Patriarch Bailey was? Don't do this again in the future. Dumpling swung its claws and directly threw Jiang Jiwan's book to the ground. Then, it folded its wings and changed back to the size of a palm, squatting on Chu Liyue's shoulder. Chu Liyue patted its head. Good job. Dumpling obediently and proudly went forward, wanting to rub her face. But before he could even touch it, he could already feel a wave of coldness assaulting him. Its body stiffened and it obediently turned around. Then, it looked at Rong Xiu, who was not far away, with hidden bitterness. It was clearly its master, but it was not allowed to be intimate. But how overbearing! Sooner or later, its master would help it take revenge. Chu Liyue did not notice the surging undercurrent and looked at Jiang Jiwan, who was lying motionless on the ground. At this moment, Jiang Jiwan was covered in blood and bruises, and her face was as pale as a ghost. If it were not for the last weak breath, everyone would have thought that she was dead. Bailey Jun moved and was about to go over. Chu Liyue was a step ahead and walked to Jiang Jiwan's side. Don't touch her! Bailey Jun was frightened and shouted sternly. Chu Liyue looked up with some surprise and a trace of confusion appeared in her eyes. I just want to help take a look at her injuries. Don't worry, I'm also a celestial physician. Moreover, even if she really wanted to do something, she wouldn't do it in front of so many people. This Bailey clan leader was truly too concerned that his mind was in a mess. Chu Liyue lowered her eyes slightly and a deep thought flashed through her mind. If she remembered correctly, this Bailey family leader had never married in his life and had no children. Moreover, he was very strict and harsh. The only person he cared about so much seemed to be. Thinking of this, Chu Liyue's heart skipped a beat. She raised her hand and reached out to his face. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1466. Bailey Jun's heart jumped to his throat when he saw this scene. Stop. Before he could finish his sentence, Chu Liyue's fingertips had already touched the other party's cheek. Chu Liyue immediately understood what was going on, and her lips slowly curled into a smile. It's true, the person lying on the ground was motionless. Chu Liyue's hand had already touched the other party's chin. Then she gently rubbed her fingertips. As if disturbed by her movements, the other party frowned and struggled to open her eyes. Jiang Jiwan had fainted and was unconscious. At some point, she suddenly felt that her face was a little itchy, and it made her very uncomfortable. The last bit of rationality she had left made her realize that the situation was not good. Who's touching my face? The moment she opened her eyes, the dazzling sunlight turned her vision white. After a few seconds, she finally saw the face of the person in front of her. Jiang Jiwan let out a shrill scream of horror. She almost reflexively raised her hand to push the other party away. However, at this time, many of her bones were broken, and her internal organs were squeezed into a ball. She was probably seriously injured. She did not even have the strength to raise her hand, let alone push the other party away. When she realized this, resentment and hatred surged in her heart. Chu Liyue seemed to be startled by her scream. Her body leaned back slightly, but her hand was still on Jiang Jiwan's face. Don't worry, the competition is over. I'll help you wipe the blood. Wipe what? You go away. Jiang Jiwan desperately wanted to retreat. Unfortunately, she was almost paralyzed at this time. Her movements only made her look like a powerless worm. Didn't you hear what she said? You don't have to interfere. Bailey Jun hurried over. Chu Liyue seemed to be at a loss. I really didn't want to do anything. Hey, what's this? As she spoke, she flicked her wrist and a translucent mask as thin as a cicada's wing appeared in her hand. Jiang Jiwan felt a burning pain on her face. It hurts. In order to make this mask more comfortable, she had specially used a little method to reinforce it. If she wanted to take it off, she had to be very careful. Chu Liyue's fierce tearing almost tore off half of her face. How could she not be in pain? But very quickly, the deathly silent atmosphere made her suddenly realize what had happened. She subconsciously raised her head and looked around. Everyone was looking at her with different expressions and strange gazes. Her face. Only then did Jiang Ji-won come back to her senses. Her heart was suddenly filled with deep fear. His entire body was ice cold. Bailey Jun, who was already a few steps away, suddenly stopped, his lips trembling. "It's over." Elder Bo Yen suddenly stood up, his face solemn. "Jiang Ji-won, why are you here?" They couldn't be more familiar with this face. This question also made the remaining people, who were still uncertain, come to a realization. So this is Jiang Ji-won? Wasn't she expelled from Lingxiao College? Why is she here again today? I heard that she grew up with Bailey Jun and was very pampered. Her status in Yuntian Tower is very high. Didn't you see how Yuntian Tower still chose to take her in after she was expelled and embarrassed? I really don't know what's so good about her. From the competition just now, it seems like her talent is average. Also, she's narrow-minded and not presentable. In the past, Bailey Jun seemed to have planned for her to be engaged to Rong Xiu. However, Rong Xiu directly chose his own princess and didn't give her a chance at all. Now it seems like he already knew what Jiang Ji-won was like and never liked her, right? If I were Jiang Ji-won, I would hide after being expelled from Lingxiao College. I didn't expect her to be so thick-skinned. She actually used Bailey Jun's pampering to change her appearance and come here? Does she really not know how embarrassing this is? After today, she probably won't have any reputation in the world of God anymore, right? All kinds of discussions were unbearable to the ears. Jiang Ziyuan's body trembled, and tears streamed down her face. She looked at Bailey Jun with red eyes. Now, only the clan leader could save her. I brought her here. Bailey Chun closed his eyes and enunciated each and every word clearly. At this point, there were some things that he had to face. Elder Bo Yen sneered. "We have all seen that. Clan leader Bailey, you know what I'm asking." Jiang Ji-won had already been expelled from Lingxiao College. According to the rules, she was not allowed to take half a step into Lingxiao College's territory. Now, Bailey Jun actually brought her here? Who was this slap in the face? Bailey Jun was rarely questioned like this. At this time, he was also angry. Yuan is a member of Yuntian Tower. So what if I brought her here? At this point, he was even angrier. Speaking of which, Yuan's performance in the school has always been good. Now, just because she made a small mistake, you guys expelled her. Isn't it too much? Elder Bo Yen was so angry that he laughed. His eyes were like knives, sweeping across Jiang Ji-won. Jiang Ji-won lowered her head guiltily. A small mistake? Clan leader Bailey, it seems that there are some things that you don't know. Didn't Jiang Ji-won tell you why she was expelled? Bailey Jun frowned. He felt that something was wrong. This tone sounded... At this time, a sharp pain suddenly came from Jiang Ji-won's body. She couldn't help but let out a shrill scream. Bailey Jun quickly ran over and helped her up. Yuan, what happened to you? Jiang Ji-won kept vomiting blood and couldn't say a word. The blood was faintly black. Chu Luiwei glanced at her and kindly reminded her. It seems like half an hour has passed since she took the fragrance pill. Her Yuan meridian is starting to break. Digression, I didn't sleep well last night. I feel like I've been hollowed out. Continue at 6 p.m. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1467. How could this be? Bailey Jun was not a celestial physician, but he knew a lot about the intoxicating fragrance pill. This was because Jiang Ji-won had asked him for this pill. When she came to the Yuntian Tower, she was poor and had nothing on her. She didn't even have the basic necessities, let alone a high-grade and precious pill like the intoxicating fragrance pill. Fortunately, Bailey Jun came out of seclusion. As the head of the Yuntian Tower, it was easy for Bailey Jun to get this pill. Of course, he had asked around before and knew that the side effects of taking the intoxicating fragrance pill were very serious. It had to be treated within half an hour, otherwise it would cause serious damage to the cultivator's body. But he didn't expect it to be so terrible. Her Yuan meridian was broken? Why did this happen all of a sudden? Jianghu wailed in pain. Her entire body, inside and out, felt as if something was nibbling on it. Her flesh, blood, tendons and bones, her Yuan meridian. The indescribable pain and numbness intertwined, almost making her want to die. Save me. Please save me. Jianghu struggled to say something, and her syllables were unclear. She didn't even have the strength to finish a sentence. Seeing her like this, Bailey Chun felt terrible and hurriedly shouted, "Don't worry. Someone help." No one answered. The Spirit Firmament Academy would definitely not lend a hand. As for the other celestial physician present, they were not stupid. Everyone could see that Jianghu had been completely rejected by Lingxiao College. If they helped, wouldn't it be obvious that they were going against them? Anyone with half a brain would know that it was unnecessary to offend Lingxiao College for such a useless person. As for Bailey Jun's face, Rong Xiu was still here. Even he hadn't helped, how could anyone else? He shouted twice, but there was no response. Only then did Bailey Chun realize that something was wrong and looked around. With just a glance, he had already understood everyone's attitude, and he could not help but feel a chill in his heart. Chu Luiwei was standing at the side. Seeing this, the corners of his lips curled up into a smile. "Chief Bailey, some of her injuries were caused by me and Dumpling. Why don't I take a look?" Before he could finish his words, Bailey Jun glared at him fiercely. His aged eyes seemed to be burning with flames. "Isn't it enough that you've made her so miserable? What else do you want to do? I didn't expect you to be so ruthless at such a young age. Vicious and vicious." Elder Wanjing rose to his feet and pointed a finger at him. "Bailey Jun, watch your mouth." Who did this Bailey Jun think he was, scolding their people in Lingxiao College's territory? His strength was not weak, but they had so many people on their side that they were not to be trifled with either. Lingxiao College had been established in the world of God for thousands of years. How could they be bullied by a brainless and blind Bailey Jun? Rong Xiu lowered his eyes slightly, hiding the murderous intent in his eyes. Bailey Jun was warned loudly, and only then did he come back to his senses. He gritted his teeth so hard that they almost broke. Jianghu struggled and groaned in pain. Her voice gradually weakened, and her face gradually turned from pale to dark. Chu Liwei took a few steps back, crossed his arms, and watched coldly from the side. Actually, she did not really want to save Jianghu. It was just that they were in Fang State City now, and she was the only one who had fought with Jianghu twice. If she really died, Bailey Jun would definitely blame it all on her. Anyway, with the fragrance pill this time, even if Jianghu didn't die, she would be crippled. In the future, she would probably never be able to embark on the path of cultivation. How easy it would be to die and end all troubles. If she could live and experience how a genius turned into a good-for-nothing, that would be great. However, it seemed that Bailey Jun would rather let Jianghu die than accept her help. It would save her trouble. "It hurts. It's hot." Jianghu was in so much pain that her head was a little dizzy. Her vision gradually blurred, and she began to mumble something in a low voice. Chu Luiwei raised her head and threw away the human skin mask. Then, she tidied up the messy strands of hair on her forehead, and the corners of her lips curled up slightly. The side effects of taking the fragrance pill were very serious, and it indeed needed to be treated within half an incense stick's time. But in reality, under normal circumstances, the fragrance pill would not immediately cause such serious consequences. When Dumpling brought Jianghu out just now, she left a flame in her body. Although the flame was small, it was enough to directly ignite the power in Jianghu's body and break her Yuan meridian inch by inch. In just a moment, she could completely turn her into a good-for-nothing. Chu Luiwei had long guessed that she was Jianghu, because the other party's hostility and targeting were too obvious. Even a person made of mud could not take the provocation time and time again. Moreover, Chu Luiwei was a person who would never let herself be at a disadvantage. Jianghu would not let go of her, but she did not have so much time and energy to waste on Jianghu. Today, everything would be settled clearly in this round.
Cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. Jiang Ji1 felt her consciousness starting to blur. After a long time, she was even numb from the pain. She was like a drowning person, desperately struggling to find a life-saving straw. She originally thought that Bailey June could help her, but she waited and waited, and the pain in her body did not lessen at all. A strong sense of despair surged from the depths of her heart and gradually swallowed her. Yuan. Hang in there, Grandpa will bring you back. Bailey June knew that it was useless to continue wasting time here, so he made a prompt decision to bring Jiang Ji1 out of here. He moved carefully, trying to help Jiang Ji1 up. But Jiang Ji1's injuries were too serious. Many of her bones were broken, and she could not stand at all. The slightest movement would cause heart-wrenching pain. Bailey June could only put her down and comfort her in a low voice. Don't worry, Grandpa will call someone over. As he spoke, he took out another pill and fed it to Jiang Ji1. Dragon Breath Pill. That's a pill that's even more precious than the bewitching fragrance pill. Bailey Chun is really willing to part with Jiang Ji1. So what if he's generous? Didn't you see the color on Jiang Ji1's face? I reckon that her Yuan meridian is almost completely destroyed. This Dragon Chi pill can only help her keep her alive. In this situation, she's better off dead. Bailey June's energy and thoughts were all focused on Jiang Ji1. How could he listen to the words around him? Chu Luiyue shook her head inwardly, finding it somewhat laughable. Bailey June really thought that Jiang Ji1's body was not damaged enough. Dragon Breath pills could replenish the qi, refresh the mind, and nourish the body. But the prerequisite was that one had to have a healthy and intact body. Now that Jiang Ji1's Yuan meridian was broken and she could not control the power in her body, wasn't he adding fuel to the fire? She shook her head, too lazy to continue watching, and turned to leave. At this moment, Jiang Ji1's weak voice sounded from behind her. Shengwan. You, Chu Luiyue's heart skipped a beat. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Immortal Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.